Hello, I'm Ray Benj. I'll be teaching the class this semester. Stars and Galaxies, summer of 2021. And so, welcome. Should be a fun class. The class is going to be about stars and about galaxies. Astronomy is my thing. I've always found astronomy interesting, and this class is going to be about astronomy. The textbook that we use is Universe. We're actually doing the second half of the book. So this class is really the second half of the book. The solar system class is the first half of the book, and I do not assume that you've already had the solar system class before you've had this class. So if you look in the syllabus, and I've posted a copy of the syllabus online here, and you should have had a copy emailed to you. And so the schedule here actually has things from the earlier part of the book, chapters 1, 2, 5, and 6. You need to know that stuff for what we're going to be talking about this semester, so we're going to go back and cover it whether you've seen it or not. So if you already had the solar system or the class, a lot of that will be a repeat. If you haven't, it's going to be brand new stuff, okay? And then if you go ahead and take the solar system class, you'll see it again. So often people, it didn't matter which class they took first, whichever one they take second, they typically do better at. In addition to tests, we have labs. We've got two different kinds of labs. We are actually three different kinds of labs. We've got one kind of lab in which you're going to be using a program you download, install on your computer called Stellarium. And so there'll be a variety of labs that use that, in which you do things and answer questions. Okay, I'll explain more about that later on. And then what you'll do is you'll have another set of labs that do worksheets or calculations or measurements, and you calculate a few things there. And so that'll be another set. The Stellarium-based labs are 10 points apiece. The other labs are 15 points apiece. There'll be three other take-home labs. One in which you just watch the sun rise and set. Another one in which you watch and count stars, and one in which you look for stars and constellations. These are all things you go out and observe yourself. And so those things, are going to be 15 points apiece. Okay. So what I do is I just add points. There's also going to be a handful of little short papers that you do. The idea is just pay attention to the news. You'll occasionally see an astronomy-related item in the news. If you don't see it in like regular mass media news, you'll sometimes see things here like if you look at Sky and Telescope magazine or Astronomy magazine, they've got online resources. There's something called space.com, which is an online space news site. And so the idea is read something that in the news and write a short summary of it. The idea is to get you thinking about astronomy outside of just the class. I've had students in the past who say they really like that assignment because they get used to reading about astronomy, and they keep doing it for years after they're done with the class, and so they actually stay on top of things. The other thing that we've got here besides those is that there's going to be a discussion board to try to keep you active in the class. Each week you need to read the textbook and listen to the lectures, and then ask a relevant question about what it is that you were studying, and then answer someone else's question about what was going on. So you might be doing this, and you're reading about large telescopes, and you say, wait, does anybody know what the next really big telescope under construction is going to be? Well, to answer that, someone else would have to maybe look it up somewhere. So Google it, look up the answer. So the idea is to keep you active and learning in the class, and I've been doing that since we've been online. It actually does seem to help with people. So I'm going to keep that up. In the end, the other thing that you can do is there's a variety of other things you can do for extra credit. If you get bored in the middle of the night and you're just surfing channels or streaming, and you see a documentary about astronomy, watch it. Turn in a short summary of it for extra credit points. There's TED Talks about astronomy topics. You can do those for extra credit. Some observatories or planetaria, are now back in person doing things. Others are still doing things virtually. And so if you get a virtual program, you can actually attend that and then write a short summary of it and upload that for extra credit also. Okay, now at the end of the semester, what I do is I just add up all the points. So it's not out of something, it's just I add up points. And so when I add up points, if you have a sufficient number of points, you get a D. So if you get 467 points out of all this, you get a D. If you get 544 points, you get a C. 622 points, you get a B. 700 points or more, you get an A. Okay. And so the idea is the more stuff that you do, even if you're not like great at everything, if you do more things, you get more points. I just add. Okay. The term paper, because I dropped the lowest of that group of things there, if you don't do the term paper, that's a 0. I drop that. Okay, it doesn't hurt you. If you do the term paper and it's higher than your lowest test grade, I drop the lowest test grade. So you can think of it as the term paper replacing a low test grade if it's higher. Okay, now the only time that doesn't work is if you cheat. Okay, if you plagiarize the term paper or if you cheat on a test, then the rules change. Instead of dropping the lowest, I drop the highest grade. Okay, you get a 0 once you cheated on. I drop the highest grade. You get reported to the college for cheating, and whatever letter grade you get in the class is dropped 1 letter grade. So, not cheating and not doing well, doing extra stuff, it gets you better grade. Cheating hurts you. Okay, so don't do that. Okay, all right, so that's kind of the basic idea of the class in a nutshell. Again, the syllabus gives you some information here that's going to help you with what we're going to be doing. Okay, and we get important dates that are on here. I got the test dates that are on here. I got some of the due dates for some of these things that are on here. There'll be a few more things I'll be posting online here that'll for some of the other labs that I'll have due dates, posted on Blackboard here. You'll submit everything through Blackboard. There is no penalty for working ahead and turning in things. So I sometimes have people work ahead on the labs. Instead of turning it on the due date, they turn it in way early. So they have some time off, and so they just start working on their lab material, and they just start getting that out of the way. The little short papers, I have people that often do those and turn those in early also. I have a lot of people do a lot of these things early and turn it in. Then you don't have to worry about it later, and you've already generated the points that you need. And so again, I have a point total grading system. So it's not, like this out of that points. So if you want to know how many points you got, just look at what the total is. And so that's all that matters is the total. And so that's basically how I grade this. I'm going to have a few other things on the Blackboard side here, study guides, aids, things like that you can use. And so with that, like I said, I'll have a couple of live online sessions here, each week so that you can come and ask questions. And I encourage you to come and ask questions. You typically do better if you ask questions about things rather than just like not knowing. Okay. I have a lot of people, use those sessions, those Q&A sessions as a review for the final. They say, hey, I've been studying this for the final, what sort of things should I be studying, and so forth. I actually am going to post exams I've given in previous semesters when we were on campus. So I've got some exams, old exams. I can post those. You got the same professor teaching the same class. Yeah, we're online and instead of being in person. But I'm going to ask the same kinds of questions. Not exactly the same questions. It's not like, here's a question, there's the answer, memorize it, no, but if you notice I asked several questions about solar storms, then expect a question about solar storms. If you notice that on old exams, I ask you, for, between two kind of stars, which one's bigger or smaller, then you ought to be able to figure, that means you probably want to know how do you figure out which star is bigger or smaller. Okay, so you can look at the old exams as kind of a guide for the kinds of things that I ask, and that'll be a very useful tool. I have a lot of students that find that very useful, and so what they'll often do is, as we're going through the material, they'll look at the old exams and say, hey, after I've covered, this little bit of material, this lecture here, what other questions can I answer? Okay. There's a lot of stuff. We're covering the whole universe, so there's a lot of stuff here. Don't wait until right before the test to start studying. Stay on top of the material, and you're going to do better. So I often have students, here, the very first week, they're looking at the old test and say, hey, this first week we've covered all this stuff that's going to be on the test, and so they'll actually come and ask questions, hey, one of the old tests, says this, how do you know what the answer is? I know we've covered that, but could you explain a little bit more or help me understand how to figure it out? And so I encourage you to do that. So stay active, stay involved. You typically do better. Okay, so with that, I'm going to start posting some of the lectures here so you can start work. But this is our introduction right here, kind of where are we going with the class. And so hope to see some of y'all to the online sessions, and y'all take care and have a good summer.